Welcome to a bite of. We're talking about Nosferatu.
I'm done. You did. You didn't say your name.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, hi, I'm Derek. That's Noah. Nosferatu.
Good job.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, let's let that be the intro. Why not? We've had coffee and it's way too late to be having coffee. So that's probably what was happening. Nosferatu or Nosferatu. How are people saying it? I feel like it's a Thanos type thing, you know?
It almost sounds the same, but to the trained ear, there's a difference.
Bill Skarsgård should know what that is.
Yeah.
So we're talking Robert Eggers' newest entry into his dark Gothic verse, I should say, Nosferatu. We're kind of making up for our holiday break because all of these movies decided to come out.
Yes.
When we were on break. Award season is upon us, so keep an eye out for some award pods coming up. But before we get into the episode, make sure you are subscribed. What is it? Following us, Patreon, Discord, insert thing here. We have all of those things.
We're on it.
It's all down below.
That's right.
We'd love to talk to you guys more, or just see your face. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
Because we're just talking to each other, but we're talking to you.
We just want to know that you're happy.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're happy.
We're also continuing our trend of not typical holiday movies that have come out. So we had horny holidays and now we have
Horror holidays.
different kind of horny
That's
holidays.
true.
You know?
Also sexy. And of course, spoiler alert.
Ooh, I would say spoiler alert and trigger warning, right? This does heavily deal with sex and abuse kind of. So warnings ahead. We're going into the darkness.
Let us officially take a bite of Nosferatu, written and directed by Robert Eggers. Haunted by visions of a deathly shadow, Ellen has recently found happiness with her new husband, Thomas. On the hunt for his first property sale, Thomas is tasked with selling a home to a mysterious buyer in Transylvania. Once he arrives, he is warned of an ungodly creature that lives in the castle. He unknowingly releases a plague on his home and his wife. Sorry, Thomas. So what did you think?
Okay, general thoughts up top. It's Robert Eggers. He's one of the best in the industry right now, I think, with immersion, with really taking care with what he has in every single shot and screen. I'm a huge fan of Robert Eggers. Ever since The Witch, I have been sold. I want to live deliciously. I will succumb to the darkness. I will go to that lighthouse. Anything he wants me to do or in, transport me into, I will be there.
Yeah, this is definitely a Noah film, right? You love Gothic horror. You love new takes on old properties, especially done by masters of the craft. So this was 100% a Noah film.
Yeah, I was really excited to see what he was going to do with Nosferatu, because as we know, Nosferatu is a kind of, it was, let's say, a copyrighted version of Dracula. Like, it wasn't supposed to come out and they made them destroy the copies. So the only copies we have were illegal copies.
Oh my gosh.
Which is crazy.
That is crazy.
It's a version of a story and he's doing the version of kind of both of them together.
Right.
I was curious to see how he was going to do it. I will say, for his kind of stories and him doing a retelling, a remake, it was very by the book for those stories, because I wasn't sure where he was going to go. And I was like, oh, he did all the beats of Nosferatu / kind of weaving Dracula in there as well. Mm-hmm. So I was happy with that. I liked it. I thought it was really well done, well crafted.
Yeah. I feel like I learned a lot from this film. I think I learned not to sign documents that are in a different language. I learned that if I travel to a place and an entire town of people are saying, don't go to that creepy place, maybe I shouldn't go to it. Also, if I'm feeling uncomfortable in a situation, leave. This is all Thomas. Thomas really needed to learn a lot. He didn't learn enough soon enough. Mm-hmm. But other than its educational factors, it was really good. I mean, I was thoroughly entertained. I kind of feel like lately I've been going into viewing things blindly and enjoying the experience, not really expecting anything. I mean, I think on some level I was expecting something really scary, and I think it was creepy. I think it had moments of scare. I think the scare really came from the jump scares, but the story itself was kind of like eepy, creepy, tingly, wingly, creepy, crawly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think a good place to go next in the conversation would be the not performances, but more like the feeling of the movie, because something that Eggers does with his film is that you can really tell that he cares about what is it? The emotion that you feel when you see a scene or see a shot or see a frame, how the camera moves and what's going on or not going on in that shot. You can tell he really takes care in that. There was moments of this where I was like, that shot alone is a painting. Like, that is a beautiful shot. Specifically one, I think, if you haven't seen the movie, but it's in the trailer where Thomas is walking to the carriage and the snow is falling. So you have a lot of silhouette shots, but the way they play with lighting and not lighting in this, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, I think that he played a lot with the feeling of being trapped, being enclosed, light, dark. I thought a lot about what he did with the sets in a way, or who he worked with to create that, because you see Thomas, Thomas is very much feeling like he's at the start of his adult life. He's just got married and now he's going to make his first big sale, and he and his wife, they're going to be able to buy a home and they're going to kind of have this extravagant life that they've always wanted to. Of course, it doesn't go that way, but we see them existing in that realm, right? With their best friends, Friedrich and Anna. And when you're in their home, it's super opulent. It's colorful. It's lush. The clothing is very big and bold and colorful, and just even the textures and how much is packed into one space. And then completely opposite of that is when he gets to Count Orlok's castle in Transylvania, he is in a barren place.
Yeah, it's definitely the way they played with colors and lighting and lack of lighting really didn't just show you kind of each color or character's emotional state at the time, but who that character is. And I did like that. I liked when we got to see their friend's house, and it's like, that's the life that they're going to go to. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. This poor, sad little girls. That was terrifying. So you mentioned the scare factor, which I don't think it was scary in the traditional sense. It was definitely unsettling, and it was more, Gothic horror is a feeling, and it's an atmosphere and an aesthetic and all the senses, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be jump scary, but like that scene with Orlok having those little girls and then dropping, I was like, I would flip the fuck out.
Yeah.
Flip out. But so I like that. I think that's a good point to see. This is Orlok's home, and this is like the life that they're trying to get, but that's where they're going.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. And I think, and we see this throughout the movie. You see this a lot with Nicholas Hoult. You see this a lot. You see this with Emma Corrin. There are these moments when they are facing Orlok and they are petrified, and the camera pulls in so close to their face, and the fear that is reading on their face is it. If you're looking into their eyes as the viewer and you let yourself go over to that, you can feel that fear as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments of playing with sound, playing with light, playing with the camera work where it really does, again, immerses you into this. And you're not trying to feel what they're feeling, but you can you get that wave of despair, scared, ecstasy, kind of what is going to happen. And it was a really, it's an interesting way to do a movie, because in the span of one scene, a character can go from being completely happy to petrified. And sometimes you think oh, it's a different scene. It's not. The range that these characters can go through, specifically with Lily Depp. I just, let's get into performances. Because I feel like we keep trying to get to it without getting to it. But performances wise, should we start with Lily?
Yeah.
I think Lily, star of the show.
Lily Rose
Depp, played Ellen. I think I'm going to try to say that's like, I don't really have any like critiques about this movie. There's like a silly one where I think Emma Corrin's wig is like really bad, but like that's like the silliest critique I have. The only other one that's like slight is I think Ellen's character, or Lily, her acting was so good when she was doing body work and expressing whatever emotion that's really coming over her. Some of the dialogue and lines I didn't believe until she like convulsed. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
It's not bad on her part. I think because she was so animated that I was feeling more on those moments.
Sure.
Than when she was monologuing.
The delivery felt stronger in those moments when it was met with action. I mean, I will say, as far as some of the dialogue, I mean, sometimes it would feel like I couldn't understand them. And, you know, I don't know if it was because they were just speaking quickly. Anyway, but sometimes, like, there was that part where they were talking to each other. They were kind of like out on the moors when Thomas was away. They couldn't find him. And I was like, what are they saying to each other? It was like, it almost felt like a lot of mumbling. So I agree. In some of those just regular conversational scenes, it felt like it was a little lost. But I agree, you know, a lot of the kind of unsettling nature was in her body contortions and what she was doing. And speaking of levels, I mean, she had a very interesting line to toe, right? She had to do someone who was having nightmares and delusions and was supposed to be frightened, but also having moments of ecstasy,
desire
as well.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting thing to watch, because you're watching it going like, I'm scared. No, wait, it's weird now. And oh no, wait, I'm scared. And it's sort of sexy. Like, so it was all over the place in that way.
Yeah. I think she did a fantastic job. And I think some of the horror or the uncomfortableness came from that performance of her, because I mean, that moment with her and Thomas in the room where it's like the infamous image going around, like the meme, but like, while it is funny when you take it out of context in the scene itself, because I had seen that meme going around before I watched it, I was like, oh, this is going to be so silly. I didn't feel that way in the movie. There are some times where the movie does feel kind of jokey, or, you know, like, oh, was that supposed to be serious? It didn't feel serious. I think it's doing that on purpose. Like it feels like the 1922 version of Nosferatu sometimes, where it's like kind of silly. Like,
yes.
Why is he standing like that? But that performance with her, even though I know it's a joke in the real world, in it, I was like, I don't like what's happening. Like, I feel very uncomfortable.
Well, that whole scene was very uncomfortable because
she does things with her body.
She does things with her body. Also, she's there with her husband. They're finally reunited, and she's being torn between these two worlds, of the world of where she gets to be happy with Thomas, and then this other darker world where, I mean, for lack of a better term, she sort of belongs to Count Orlok, right? And so she's the demon, she's the angel. She's the demon, she's the angel. And we're seeing her go through both of those.
You know, I'm still trying to work through what the movie is trying to say, specifically with Ellen, because she is the main focus of this movie. And I feel like, you know, there's a lot to do with like desire, possession, contract in the literal sense and not literal sense, but also like agency and consent, I think there's something there that I don't think that I've been able to really pinpoint. So I'm curious if you, or even just a listener/viewer, is there like, because it feels very much like anytime she started talking about like, this is like my desire, this is the thing that I've had, like he was able to fill a part in me that my husband hadn't been able to fill before I met my husband. You know what? So like it very much seems like this is her nature, and everybody around her kept trying to stop her from doing that.
So what you're saying is that this is actually the original baby girl.
Yeah. Let her be a freak.
Yeah, totally. Well, I don't know if I'm able to pinpoint it either, but I see the theme that you're talking about. And
or at least trying to.
Yes. And I think that even when you see how she's being treated when she's having these bouts of delusion or whatever they're calling them, right? They put her in a corset, right? They knock her out, give her more ether. They tie her up, you know? So it's like she's losing all of her autonomy in all of those moments. And then, you know, Willem Dafoe comes in, he's like, you morons, untie her.
I loved his character. I mean, Willem Dafoe obviously coming in, and he's a Eggers regular. So it was really fun to see his.
He's a regular.
So it was fun to see him bring that comedic relief a little bit. I mean, he's an eccentric occultist, right? He believes in Nosferatu. He knows about the thing, but doesn't actually know about the thing. He was right, but he's wrong. So it was fun to see him in it. I liked what he brought to the table. I really think Nicholas Hoult did a fantastic job as Thomas. He just has that quality about him where it's like he can be formidable, but a lot of times you just want him to be okay. So like The Menu, this one, Juror Number 2, all of these movies is just like he has that sad face when he's in trouble.
He brings like a naivete to like everything that he does.
Yeah.
And I agree. I thought he was really good. And you know, this character is so interesting, right? Because the character of Thomas is so powerless the entire time, but yet he's the one that is able to sign his wife over to the Count, right? So it's, again, this is kind of on the theme of like a woman having autonomy in all senses where, you know, ultimately at the end, she's the one that has all the power, but throughout the whole thing, she's the thing that they're all playing with.
Yeah, she just had to be able to make a choice one way or another. She was the only one that could have made it. You know, there's other people in this movie like Ralph Innes, who is obviously the dad from The Witch. The name I couldn't remember last time I was talking, but also is going to be playing Galactus. I'm very excited. He has that voice. So he's in it. Emma Corrin, who we mentioned, is in it. Fantastic. Okay, we have to talk about Bill Skarsgård as Orlok.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think if I didn't know he was in this movie, I wouldn't have known he was Orlok. And I think that's a testament to Bill Skarsgård's ability and also the costuming and makeup artists, because they did stuff with his face where it's just unrecognizable. Not even the eyes.
No.
Because I think when he played Pennywise, we knew it was him because it still had his eyes in a way.
Yeah.
This one,
no, not at all. And you know, he's a towering figure in this, and all of the prosthetics. I mean, I was thinking about how long he must have spent in the chair to get ready for this, because in some scenes it's full body makeup. I kind of love, for some reason, the addition of the mustache.
I love it.
I think, you know, it adds to his thirst and his unquenchable thirst for blood, because it stays in his mustache and it just like lingers there, you know? So I think it like added almost like a soaking quality to him sucking their blood.
Oh my God. So one of the things that was the thing that I was missing, as I was saying, like, what was the scary parts of this? Like, what did it make you feel? This movie, what I like that it did is it returned to form for vampires. Like, this is like, you know, there's the Twilights, there's the Underworlds, there's all these things that kind of glamorized vampires and made them sexy and made them like superheroes.
Put them in leather.
Right. And what this does is it takes it back to like Vlad the Impaler, right? It takes it back to Bram Stoker's Dracula. And even just the way the sound and the act of sucking blood, how it's particularly like right on the heart, right? But just the noises and the way his body would move when he's sucking the blood, I just like so uncomfortable, and you could feel it. At least I did. I like felt it when he was doing that. I was like, this is like, this scares me, and he's not really doing anything. I don't know. It was so well thought out to be like, let's bring vampires a little like back. Like, he's disgusting.
Yeah. Make it more like primordial or something. You know what I mean? It's like when you think of like Interview with a Vampire, it's sexy, right? It's biting your neck. It's sexy. It verges on, you know, sexual desire. But when he's like mounted on top of Thomas and drinking from his heart, it's animalistic.
Yeah, I didn't even make a gay joke, like, because it wasn't sexy.
No,
you know?
We were not hoping for a threesome in this movie.
But no, I mean, it's to your point that it wasn't sexy, because it was like, oh yeah, and I want him to stop doing that to Thomas.
Yeah.
You know, like, please stop.
Yeah, and his clothes were not finely tailored Victorian garb. It was like what he had sitting in the closet for centuries.
And I like the reasoning behind the mustache, because one, a lot of people at the time at that time had mustaches, you know, especially those long, kind of big, almost mutton chops looking mustaches. And I like that it's like, if you look at Gary Oldman's Dracula and you look at some of the other Draculas, it's like his Dracula stands out because it's like, it's different. He has the hair, he's very white, he's kind of like burnty looking. And I like that Eggers wanted to give him something to stand out from the Nosferatu that we know from either SpongeBob or 1922. So it's like, add the mustache.
Yeah.
And it oddly really worked.
I definitely think it did. It made him very much, I don't know, there's this thing about this character in that in a way he has to blend in, right? So it's like he could blend in, but really underneath it all, he's still a blood-sucking beast, you know? I do want to also talk about the character Knock, played by Simon McBurney.
Our Renfield stand-in.
Yes, he was wild. I mean, I think he got to have the most fun on set all the time.
Well, he just acted bananas.
Yeah.
Like I love the scene after he gets out of the jail, I think he was in. And he's just like, he runs down the street laughing. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it too. Like, if you're watching this and you're like, I've seen this movie before, it's because it's Dracula. Like it was an illegal version of Dracula that was made. But I did like in the credits for this that it shows that Bram Stoker was also a writer.
Yes.
So it credits both of them.
Yes.
So it's like Eggers kind of like put it together, which is nice.
Yeah. And what now, it is interesting though, you had said this before, and there were parts in it that like were a little silly, were a little funny. Why do you think Eggers put that in there?
Well, I think he was just, I think he's not, there's no wink to the camera. You know what I mean? I think they know what they're doing. And it's like, that's just almost what you expect. Like it is goofy in a way, but not like goofy, haha, just goofy and like, yeah, there's this dude that literally his skin is peeling off of his skull, has a mustache, and he's on a ship with a bunch of rats bringing the plague. Like it is like fantastical. I think what this movie does is it brings like romanticism back to vampires because even the way it was shot was very much in that scope. So I think that's why he might have done that.
Yeah.
He's the type of person that like takes care and like even just how people speak for that time. Like he coaches those people. It's like very ingrained in his process. And so I think he wanted to make sure I'm not going to diverge too much from the story, but I'm going to give it my I guess flair, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, I think it never felt out of place to me. I think because if it was all blood-sucking mayhem the entire time, I think that it would have been almost oppressive. Right. And so we were able to kind of every once in a while, like, yeah, when you walk into a room and it's filled with thousands of rats, just like the characters, you're going to be like, you know, and
the amount of rats in this movie. Oh my gosh. If you look at any of the behind the scenes, I think Eggers actually did it might be New York Times interview. Highly recommend watching that. It's very good. He goes really into depth with what the process was to make this movie. But he also talks about the rats and just the amount of rats that they used, like most of like not CGI, like those were all real rat actors, ractors. So in the scope of the story, so we talked about performances, we talked about the blood sucking and the feel of it. The story itself, it's very interesting because it's almost like if I'm trying to put it into words, it's like almost like an abuser trying to come back into somebody's life. You know what I mean? Setting those ultimatums, setting like, I'm going to ruin your life if you don't let me back in. And again, this is Orlok to Ellen. So it was interesting to see that kind of monster be like, if you don't do this in 3 days, I'm going to like release a plague. You just have to love me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I think there were certain things in this movie where I tripped over them a little bit. They made me stumble a little bit. One of them is that there really isn't a clear origin to Orlok and Ellen, right? There's this scene in the beginning of a voice is calling out to her and she kind of is like, oh, there you are, something I've been missing. Yes, I give myself over to you. That's all we get. We don't know how it necessarily started when she first heard him, why she would really want to give herself over to him. So it's kind of like, okay, so that thing happened, which is the starting point for this entire movie. Then, I don't know, he moves away to Transylvania and he's like, you know who I've been thinking about? Ellen.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like he's just coming back out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think there was a line, I believe we either missed it or something, but he says that he was pretty much like locked away for a little bit. So whatever reason it was, I mean, I don't know if it was that village that was outside of the castle that kind of put him in his place for a little bit. He always has to return to the ground which he came from at night, hence the coffin. Yeah, I think it just kind of threw you into the story. I like that though, about particularly Eggers' type of storytelling and this type of storytelling where it doesn't give you a lot. Like it puts you in it. Like,
Yeah,
infer what you want, but like this is the story going forward.
that's fair.
It's kind of like The Witch. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, the family was kicked out of their community for practicing this type of religion. We have no idea who that witch was,
Yeah.
you know, but that's what the story that
She
happened.
just lived in the forest.
Yeah. I also realized that this is his only movie so far without the in the title. The
Oh.
Witch, The Lighthouse, The Northman. Dude,
And where is the Anya Taylor-Joy?
true.
They brought the Aaron Taylor-Johnson.
He was in the last one. Or she was in the last one. Oh, I forgot about Aaron Taylor Johnson
Yeah.
in this. He was fine.
Yeah.
I know. He didn't. It wasn't Craven bad.
And it was like, Craven good?
No.
You weren't Craven is Craven?
No. I think he was fine.
Yeah. I mean, that character in itself is just kind of like, he's the antithesis to all of the mythological things that they're trying to explain.
And then at the end, he was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, you're right. The vampires ate my family.
Yeah.
And then ate him?
I don't know.
He got the plague?
Something. Yeah.
All right. They had to burn him alive.
Yeah.
Not alive. They had to
Oh
burn
yeah.
his body.
He did stuff with his dead wife. I forgot. Oof. He did to get burned alive.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So what did you think about the story?
So the story itself, I think, is, as you're saying, sort of a typical vampire tale, right? It's Twilight in the sense of a 1,000-year-old vampire becomes obsessed with a young woman with dark hair. He leaves for a long time, Italy, Transylvania, only this one doesn't sparkle.
I don't like that. I reject that comparison, but it is true. You mean Twilight is like this, not this is like Twilight.
I don't know.
Well,
No.
1922.
Yes, but this is the Eggers version, which came out in 20. I'm kidding, obviously. I'm kidding. They all have the same source material in some sense.
Stephanie Meyer.
Exactly. She had a dream of a vampire. If you want to go back and listen to our first episode ever, we talk about the origin of Twilight.
Don't ever.
So go back.
I'm going to delete it after this episode. I can't believe we did that. That's
Hey,
quarantine mayhem.
There was nothing coming out. There was a book. That was it. That's all we had. But as far as the story itself, I think, what are we talking about? That's right. This Nosferatu. I do think, as a person who loves seeing a woman in power, I think it was upsetting that, spoiler, at the end, she has to make the decision to give up her own life for everyone else.
Well, she did that decision. Like, I think part of it is like she should have the bodily autonomy and the ability to give consent whichever way she wanted.
That is a good point. And I did like that it wasn't like a man was convincing her to do it. She looked at the professor and she was like, bro, I know what's up.
It was more like she, this entire time, without being able to put into words and feelings of what is going on, because she's being haunted and, possessed with these, like, I don't know, glamorous nightmares, I guess you could call them, of this figure. Stop. The amount of times that Derek has been doing that in the house. Stop. But she hasn't been able to put it into words. But I think when she was finally able to understand, or when Dafoe's character was like, somebody has to like make the decision, she's like, that's what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's like, I know that's me.
Yeah.
But I like that she was able to again, like, yeah, girl, like you probably shouldn't have given your life up for Nicholas Hoult, but like she knew the man she loved would die if she didn't make this decision, but she got to make the decision, which I liked. The whole ending scene was beautiful and terrifying and disgusting and sad, but so good. When it ended, I went, what? It's ending there?
I did like that it ended there.
Yeah.
That I loved, actually.
Yeah.
There was no like extended epilogue scene to see how Thomas, made well for himself. It was like, no, we started with this relationship. We're ending with this relationship.
One fun fact, and I think it really helped the movie, was that it was originally going to be set in London, but they moved it to the actual, like, typical place where these old vampire stories took place, which I think helped it a lot.
Yeah.
So that's the last fun fact I have to say about this movie.
I loved it. Thank you for that little egg.
You're welcome. Stop. You're like trying to make puns with his name.
A little Easter egg.
So let us know what you thought of Nosferatu. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you get scared?
Would you say no Nosferatu or yes Nosferatu?
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting it tonight. I feel like I'm in the basement apartment again. I feel like I'm really nailing it. Nailing it.
All right, so till next time.
Nailing it. Oh, look who's back. I should have worn my witch fingers.
You should have. Those are Orlok fingers at this point. Okay, so till next time.
Bye.
Bye.